This is why you need Centex Primetime. Jalen Gillis brings the realness. Dive into the heart of sports with the most passionate commentary around. From pro to high school, Jalen's got the insight and energy you crave. Catch all the action weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. on the Centex Sports Network, only on YouTube. Join the conversation and elevate your sports knowledge with Centex Primetime. Don't miss it.
Need video or audio solutions? Lighthouse Streaming, a full-scale media agency, can transform any event. Check this out. We're talking live streaming that's crisp and clear, event audio that hits every note, and church video and audio solutions that'll enhance worship. Corporate events, we got those on lock too. From concerts to conferences, Lighthouse Streaming and Audio makes your vision shine. Book your appointment now at lighthousestreaming.com or call 254-252-4206 for a free consultation. Let's elevate your event and light up the stage.
Hello, my name is Roy Gillis, founder and CEO of Lighthouse Streaming. Over the last 4 years, we've had some tremendous successes, none of which could have been accomplished without you, our clients, and our viewers. From my family and the staff of Lighthouse Streaming, thank you.
What's up, everybody? My name is Jalen Gillis. You may know me from Centex Sports Network. We're starting a new platform, Recruit 254. Our mission is to highlight the amazing student athletes of 254. So if you're in the Waco, Killeen, Temple, Mart, Marlin, or any surrounding 254 areas, follow this platform and join the movement. Recruit 254. 254, let's run it up.
My name is Emily Adams. I'm the marketing director for the Texas Asphalt Pavement Association. We are here at our 3rd annual MAPS conference at the Waco Convention Center in beautiful Waco, Texas. I think the event has exceeded all of our expectations. We had an amazing turnout and great sessions and nothing but positive feedback. So this is our first conference in a convention center, and I'm used to working with hotels where there's like one person to talk to for everything. And so at the last minute, we realized we needed audio and video services. And so I contacted Lighthouse Streaming and Audio, and they were very quick to respond. They were able to, even though it was the last minute, they were able to fit us into their schedule, and they provided us with technicians and equipment to record our sessions, and we'll be able to provide the people who are speaking at those sessions with great video of themselves. I would highly recommend them. I highly recommend Lighthouse Streaming and Audio. I had nothing but a pleasant experience, and if we come back to Waco again, which we hope to do, I know I'll be in touch with them.
Hello, my name is Roy Gillis, CEO of Lighthouse Streaming, and you're watching Centex Sports Network.
This is why you need Centex Primetime. Jalen Gillis brings the realness. Dive into the heart of sports with the most passionate commentary around. From pro to high school, Jalen's got the insight and energy you crave. Catch all the action weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. on the Centex Sports Network, only on YouTube. Join the conversation and elevate your sports knowledge with Centex Primetime. Don't miss it.
Need video or audio solutions? Lighthouse Streaming, a full-scale media agency, can transform any event. Check this out. We're talking live streaming that's crisp and clear, event audio that hits every note, and church video and audio solutions that'll enhance worship. Corporate events, we got those on lock too. From concerts to conferences, Lighthouse Streaming and Audio makes your vision shine. Book your appointment now at lighthousestreaming.com or call 254-252-4206 for a free consultation. Let's elevate your event and light up the stage.
Hello, my name is Roy Gillis, founder and CEO of Lighthouse Streaming. Over the last 4 years, we've had some tremendous successes, none of which could have been accomplished without you, our clients, and our viewers. From my family and the staff of Lighthouse Streaming, thank you.
What's up, everybody? My name is Jalen Gillis. You may know me from Centex Sports Network. We're starting a new platform, Recruit 254. Our mission is to highlight the amazing student athletes of 254. So if you're in the Waco, Killeen, Temple, Mart, Marlin, or any surrounding 254 areas, Follow this platform and join the movement. Recruit 254. 254, let's run it up.
My name is Emily Adams. I'm the marketing director for the Texas Asphalt Pavement Association. We are here at our third annual MAPS conference at the Waco Convention Center in beautiful Waco, Texas. I think the event has exceeded all of our expectations. We had an amazing turnout and great sessions and nothing but positive feedback. So this is our first conference in a convention center, and I'm used to working with hotels where there's like one person to talk to for everything. And so at the last minute, we realized we needed audio and video services. And so I contacted Lighthouse Streaming and Audio, and they were very quick to respond. They were able to, even though it was the last minute, they were able to fit us into their schedule, and they provided us with technicians and equipment to record our sessions, and we'll be able to provide the people who are speaking at those sessions with great video of themselves. I would highly recommend them. I highly recommend Lighthouse Streaming and Audio. I had nothing but a pleasant experience, and if we come back to Waco again, which we hope to do, I know I'll be in touch with them.
Hello, my name is Roy Gillis, CEO of Lighthouse Streaming.
Our country. Definitely happy Memorial Day to everyone out there. Most of you guys are off work today. I would say kick back and relax a little bit, but it was a little rainy outside, so I'm not sure how everybody's barbecue went. If you had a successful barbecue and you're watching with us, go ahead and DM the page, man. We'll test that theory out. Y'all can slide us some of that good old barbecue. But want to thank everybody for tuning in with us here on Memorial Day. We've got plenty to talk about here. We had a great weekend in sports as the New York Knicks last night were able to get a win and now change the series to 2-1. Looks a lot different than being down 3-0 or even down 2-0 after a great effort from Karl-Anthony Towns in that fourth quarter yesterday. They come back from down 20. The Minnesota Timberwolves blow out the Thunder in Game 3 as they come back in the series to make it 2-1 as well. We'll talk a little bit of college sports as we'll talk about the NIL deals and how that is completely changing the landscape of college sports. We'll talk a little bit of NFL. We'll talk about some of the quarterbacks that we like going into next season in the NFL. And, of course, we'll close it out tonight talking about Game 4, Thunder versus the T-Wolves in Minnesota at the Target Center up there in Minneapolis. Can't wait to be able to watch that game coming on later tonight. 7:30, I believe, is when they're scheduled for the tip-off. As always, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube, Centex Sports Network /Centex Sports TV over on YouTube. Check us out on there. Hit that subscribe button. Also, you can watch this on Facebook, Centex Sports Network. You can also like and share on there as well. You can always follow me. You see my at the bottom ticker down there, at Jalen Gillis on Instagram. You can follow the show on Instagram as well, at Centex Primetime, and also follow Centex Sports Network on all social media platforms as well. Well, folks, like I said, we got a lot to talk about, so we're going to get straight to it today. Joining me in studio, we have a familiar face to the show here, a guy that everybody knows, Mr. Rocky Miller in the building with us. Rock, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Jalen, man? It's good to be here. It seems like I hadn't been here in a while, man, for some reason, man. But I'm glad to be here. This is Memorial Day, and like you acknowledged all the men who have served, and those this day is particularly for those who have fallen in battle, and I want to personally thank those men and women and those families who sacrificed the very most so that we could live free here in America. Yeah. And also I'd like to acknowledge all those freedom fighters and ancestors that gave up so much so you people that look like me and you can live the life that we live. And
absolutely.
And the sacrifices that they gave up. So not only remember our fallen soldiers, but also our ancestors as well, because that's very important as we move forward. Definitely. And remember, the sacrifice isn't over if we want our children and our grandchildren to also have the lives and experience the life similar to or more abundantly than us. It may be a time where we have to make that make a sacrifice as well, and so be prepared to do that as well. So keep that in mind as you are barbecuing, sipping, drinking, enjoying yourself. That all these freedoms and don't come without a price.
For sure, and definitely want to say thank you to all those men and women, like you said, that have fallen in battle and previously. So y'all learned something a little new today on Centex Primetime. It's not just about barbecues on Memorial Day and being off of work, because I know that's what y'all enjoy the most, but there are some significance to it. Happy Memorial Day once again to everybody. Folks, we're going to jump straight into it. The state of NIL in college sports today. Now, I feel like every single week we have a new storyline in NIL deals here on Centex Primetime, because each and every week somebody else is getting paid or somebody else's deal is getting highlighted, and we see that very often now. I have been watching, I was just talking with Rocky off the air, I've been watching this college softball this year because I wanted to see this Kennedy girl at Texas Tech that reportedly got the $1 million deal in softball, the biggest deal ever for college softball. I think the second highest NIL deal in college softball was like $175,000. So there's a big jump between $175,000 and I believe it was $1,050,000 when she got all the way down. I think she said $1,050,004. So she got all the way down to the last dollars and cents amount of her deal. But I've enjoyed watching that and just looking at the way that the NIL deal has been played and being placed. And one of the teams that I'm looking at, or I've been watching the last couple of weeks as far as NIL is going, is the team that Kennedy went to, the organization, the school that she went to, and that's the Texas Tech Red Raiders. We'll see if we can get Wayne on here so we can talk about his Red Raiders as he loves to do whenever he's up here on the show. But they've been spending some real deal money in this NIL transfer portal as far as football, as far as basketball. And basketball, we saw them competing all the way down to the Elite Eight in basketball. Football, they had a pretty decent season, but they've wanted more. And they've gone out and they've gotten more. Since then, they've been one of the top spending teams in the NIL, in the transfer portal. They've reportedly spent $40 million on their football team heading into next year is the Texas Tech Raiders. We've seen them get top-notch transfers from every single corner of the United States, really. When you think about David Bailey, the linebacker coming over from Stanford, and many other guys that are transferring over, there's rumors that Micah Hudson could be back in the fold at Texas Tech after he left and went to A&M for only a couple of weeks, jumped back in the transfer portal, and reportedly he could be headed back to Texas Tech as well. They've got I don't want to say a new investor or whatever the right term is for it, but they've got a guy that's spending a lot of money out there, in a lot of that oil money, as Wayne would say, out there in Red Raider Nation. What do you think about, first off, just Texas Tech and what they've been doing as far as in the transfer portal, and then some of these teams now changing the entire trajectory of their sports programs because of this NIL deals?
Well, I think the NIL kind of, it's a new thing, right? Mm-hmm. But what you have to realize that there are going to have to be decisions made by all schools, institutions. There are going to be very few institutions that are going to field competitive teams in every sport. Mm-hmm. That's always been rare anyway. Yeah. You're talking Ohio State, you're talking maybe Notre Dame. Yeah. Not many schools field elite teams in every sport, right? So and I think that's where we are now. We're in an era where schools are going to have to make business decisions about what teams or what sports they're going to compete in. Yeah. You mentioned that Texas Tech invested $40 million in football. I'll say this. A $1 million investment by Texas Tech has them in the World Series. Yes. Yeah. That's a lot cheaper than $40 million. Yeah. When you talk about a schools that may not have $40 million, but they may have $1 or $2 million that they can invest in softball, get some, top-level players for, you could get 10 top-level players for $100,000 now in softball. Yeah, for sure. And then you take $1 million and get a transcendent player, then you field an exceptional elite softball team with a chance to win the college World Series. That's an investment of a couple $1 million, and your team is in the news cycle. Now, we know that softball does not get the eyes of a football. It doesn't get the notoriety of a football. But at the end of the day, what is it worth to have winning tied to your brand?
Yeah.
And I think that's very important for colleges in a very competitive landscape.
Yes.
For colleges to have winning tied to their brand. Being here in Waco for so many years, growing up here, and there was a period where I would have hated to have been here in Waco living with that football team and not having baseball for a time being competitive, and then more importantly, women's basketball.
Yes.
Because if it had not been for those two sports, men's baseball and then women's basketball.
Sure.
And then Scott Drew eventually got men's basketball on, but that was a slow build,
It was.
But I think with Kim Mulkey being at the helm, and then also for a moment, I think Steve Smith. I can't remember the coach's
name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something Coach Smith, I believe. Is his name. Yeah.
Those two guys kind of held it down for Baylor, and those were the two shining lights of their program.
Absolutely.
And I think, and football was clearly something that they were struggling to compete in until Coach Browse came. And so, and then when Coach Browse got successful, then you saw an investment in facilities, and then a stadium came along.
Stadium, yep.
Well, nowadays, it's going to be that same situation, but you're going to have to invest in personnel.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to pay players. And you're not going to, and whether it be Baylor or some other small private institution, you have to make that decision. Are you going to invest $40 million in a football team annually? Or are you going to invest that? You have to make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And decide whether or not you want to be successful, want to be competitive in those sports. And I think a lot of people, when you talk about a lot of teams for that matter, they're going to look at it and say, hey, let's just field the best team we can with these budgetary constraints, understanding that we do have limitations on how competitive we can be. And to be honest with you, Jalen, that hasn't changed really from what it was before NIL.
Yeah.
Before NIL, it was only a few teams capable of winning a national championship anyway.
Yep.
Or a conference championship. NIL just it changes
just kind of
how the money is invested and where the money goes.
Exactly.
But the people who have a priority of making sure they have a competitive team, they're going to have to make those decisions, and it's going to be driven by money. No longer is it facilities and tradition.
None of that matters
anymore. It's what are you willing to pay?
None of that matters. And you look at the teams that reportedly spending $40+ million. Kurt Zanetti, who was the first-time head coach of Indiana, and Indiana had a great season, got to the college football playoffs, all this kind of stuff. First off, he's been talking about a lot of these teams and what they're spending and what they've been doing since they let him in the group of in the Power Four conferences. Kurt Zanetti is a guy that's not shy about voicing his opinion. He said there's at least 6 schools that have a $40 million plus roster: Miami, Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State, Texas Tech, and Oregon. Now, majority of those sound like you said, only a couple teams are going to be viable to win a national championship every year. Some of those schools sound familiar: Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State, even Miami at one point. So it's kind of just reshaping which are the top 10 schools that can compete for a championship every year. It just changed it around a little bit, but it's still going to be a small few amount of teams.
Well, what you end up finding out now, again, you're going to find there are going to be limitations for some traditional powers based on the money they have available and what their footprint is. I believe eventually a team like Alabama is going to struggle to put up the kind of NIL money to accumulate the kind of talent they accumulated in the past.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think
it'll be almost impossible.
Yeah, they don't have the money to do so. So, and the tradition doesn't matter anymore.
Saban ain't even there anymore.
Yeah, so that's out of the window. So they're not going to be able to accumulate the level of talent there. I think Georgia, based on footprint, and I think they have a bigger pocketbook at this point than Alabama, being that they're in the state of Georgia and they're just having more people. And to be honest with you, there's a wider variety.
They're the biggest attraction in in Georgia.
Yeah, and they're in a larger number of recruits in Georgia.
Yes,
than
much
they
larger.
than they are Alabama.
Yes.
So, but at the end of the day, I think they're these. You know, you look at Cincinnati, and what Cincinnati's talking about is the imbalance of college football, which has always existed.
Yeah.
Now, again, follow me on this. Geographically, teams like Oklahoma, Nebraska, even Utah to a certain extent, schools that aren't necessarily who are geographically disadvantaged and population disadvantaged, they were able to compete because football just meant more in those places. Yep. They meant, football meant something, even though they didn't have a lot of recruits coming out of Nebraska, even though they didn't have a lot of recruits coming out of Oklahoma and Utah. It meant so much more, so they would go to the ends of the earth to find players, and they had a national recruiting base.
Yeah.
And they could bring players and from anywhere in. That doesn't matter anymore because a kid from California, he doesn't have to leave California to have a better life now.
Nope.
Because if you pay him $1 million in California, his family that lived in Watts no longer has to live in Watts anymore.
Exactly.
You understand? They get to live in the valley or in the hills. And so by virtue of those situations and circumstances, the landscape has changed. So what does a Nebraska, what does a Utah, what does a Oklahoma do now? Those are the schools, those are the things that kind of make me kind of sad when I think about it, is that those programs that I grew up watching and really – particularly Oklahoma and Nebraska, I see them really struggling in this era of NIL because the traditional advantage that they had is not there. And then when you talk about the geographic and demographic challenges that they have, it's just going to be hard for those schools to compete without investing enormous amounts of money into their program.
No, I agree. You think about, you just named it, the Nebraskas, the Oklahomas, those traditional powerhouses. I don't see how they're able to maintain. You almost have to catch lightning in a bottle type of thing, and you have 1 year to really, if you get a good team, you got 1 year. Because after that, your team is getting split up, similar to a Super Bowl team that has a lot of players on the end of their deal. Your team is getting split up because this guy's going to transfer to Ohio State and get paid. This guy's going to transfer to Miami and get paid. So you almost have a 1 year window if your team is that good to go out there and win if you're in a place like a Nebraska or Utah or somewhere like that.
Well, so here's the other deal. You also have to do what Ohio State has done to build a great team, is that you have to recruit at a high level year after year.
Yep.
And then you have to go out and those kids those top-notch kids that you recruit, if you're not going to be able to give them significant playing time, you're going to have to pay them real well and make it worth their while to wait in the wings while they do get playing time. Well, once guys elevate to where they are frontline starters and there are top-notch recruits, then what you have to do is recruit other guys from other schools to kind of supplement what may have left, or what you don't have.
Yeah,
that's how these rosters are being built. These rosters are being, to me, you bring in the top level talent from high school, understanding that they're not ready to play, that they have to be developed, right? But you have to supplement those with upperclassmen, so you end up having to have two separate recruiting strategies while building a team. You got to have a developmental roster, and then you have to then go out in a transfer portal and find guys that can help you now. Those guys tend to cost more money, right?
Yes, they do. They
cost more money, but they have more impact as well.
No, definitely. I agree. That's the perfect formula on how you have to build your team. And Coach Deion Sanders said it like a year ago. I'm only going to recruit 3 to 4 freshmen coming out of high school. Because if you're not going to play right away, you're going to get mad and transfer anyway, so I'm not going to pay you to transfer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get freshmen that are going to come in and have a chance to actually play. The rest of the guys I'm going to have to build from JUCO recruits. I'm going to have to build from other guys transferring from maybe group of 5 schools and kind of supplement them in. You look at Ohio State last year. Yeah, they had Jeremiah Smith, but they had Will Howard, who was a 2-star, 3-star recruit coming out of high school that transferred over from Kansas State to fill it in. They had a Quinshawn Junkins that
Caleb Downs.
Yeah, Caleb Downs that transferred from Alabama.
You look at Ohio State's staff, their football team. They had Caleb Downs, a tremendous contribution down the stretch.
Possibly the best defensive player in the nation.
You look at Junkins. Tremendous contribution, not only in the championship game, but throughout the entire season, And then literally, I call Jeremiah Smith a transfer in this regard because he was committed to Miami.
Yes, he was.
Right up until they offered him a huge bag.
Yep.
And then he changed his commitment to Ohio State. And also when there was a situation where Cam Ward was thinking about entering the NFL draft, and then that gave that opened up a window for him to transfer his commitment. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because Caleb, I mean, if you watch the timeline,
Smith,
Jeremiah Smith was going to Miami. Also, Cam Ward was also going to Miami, and then Cam Ward said, "No, I'm not going to Miami. I'm going to enter the NFL draft." And then with that situation, that gave Jeremiah Smith a chance to change his commitment to Ohio State. So, in essence, but he was a can't miss prospect.
Yeah.
He's 6'4", 220, runs a 4.4. I mean, and
was dominating like that in high school as a freshman. In high school, like 14 years old, he was already going out there getting 200 yards in Florida, playing high school football. Like you said, he's a can't miss. But I agree that's the only way you can build your program at this point is by filling those. And I'm looking at Ohio State do it again. Yeah, they went and got some of the top guys coming out of their class, but they've been heavy in the transfer portal. They got a Donaldson that was at West Virginia at running back. That was a good player. You almost have to have another form of scouting your players. Like you said, you have to have another way of going out to scout. Or, okay, who was the guy that performed well that I think it'll change the scenery? He comes here, he can be a top-notch guy like a Donaldson, like a Will Howard last year for Ohio State.
But what would it be worth? Just look at Baylor when we're talking NIL. Yeah. What would it be worth? You could take $20 million and invest in football, and that's not going to guarantee that you're going to win anything, considering the conference you play in, so on and so forth. But just think about this: if you took $5 million and put in basketball, and then you take another $3 million put in softball, and then you put another $2 or $3 million in baseball, and then you put the other $5 million in women's basketball, you can field 4 competitive spring season sports.
You'll make up that money,
and you probably won't make up the money, but you'll still have your team prominently positioned and your brand associated with winning. That allows people who are looking at your academic brand as well as your athletic brand and putting those two things together and making your brand a winning brand.
Yeah.
That's what I think teams can do. You can lose in football and still come out okay, but you have to be committed in those other spring sports.
And I almost want to say that's kind of the approach I see Baylor taking right now. I'm not saying that they're not trying to be competitive in football, not trying to win, but they're not spending Texas Tech money in football and going out there and spending $50 million. They are reported to be a top 10 spender in men's basketball. I believe they've spent $7 to $8 million in NIL money in men's basketball. So they know the sports that we want to stay competitive and let's not give up our footprint in men's basketball. I think they're going to try to turn around the programs with softball and baseball back to what it was in the mid-2000s, like you said earlier when they had Coach Smith there. So I think that's kind of the approach that they're looking at taking, even though they are spending money in football. Reportedly, Sawyer Robertson got a decent NIL deal. I'm looking at them. We're getting ready to talk about Baylor football in a little bit, looking at some of the recruits that they got in, especially in keeping local kids in. I think they are making that commitment, but like you said, maybe we can make a commitment in some of these other sports and remain competitive in football instead of cashing all out in one sport, and then maybe that doesn't work, and then all of our other teams are bad too. So I think that's a good way of looking at it. Like I said, Baylor, one of those top spenders on the men's side of basketball, along with other schools. I think Indiana right now is the number one spender in men's basketball as far as NIL. So we're looking at a lot of programs that are going to try to get back to the heights they once had because investors, they're looking at an opportunity where they can come in, they can change a whole program. They're looking at Tech. They're saying we can change this entire program around if we just come in and put our money together and not only change the program around, but change the balance of power and how those individual spenders are looked at. I forget the guy's name that reportedly is the big-time investor for Tech, but he's now on their school board. And so he's making real live decisions as far as what the school is going to do. This isn't just I'm going to give you guys some money and I hope football does good. He's making decisions on how the entire school is going to be vamped. He's put himself in these different rooms with different guys. So I think that's the where we're headed in college sports. It's almost ownership level.
You donate money so that you have a voice in what goes on.
Yeah.
And for all intents and purposes, that's how it works. If you want your voice heard, your investment has to match, your commitment.
Yes.
And if you care, just like as a parent, how much you care about your child is summed up by how much you're willing to invest in time and your resources.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much. That's how you invest. That's how much you care. If you truly love and care about your family and your kids, it'll reflect in the time you spend and the amount of resources you put toward their care. And so that's how these boosters and these investors and these backers will have to show how much they truly care about their school sports. And like I say, I've said this a million times. My concern has always been the student athlete and them getting their piece of pie of this multi-billion-dollar athletic industry, the collegiate athletic industry.
Mm-hmm.
Far too long they have been shut out and almost looked at as criminals if they chose to take an advantage or use their talents to get a hamburger or a T-shirt or something like that. And I always thought that was tremendously unfair to the student athlete, considering, especially when you talk about the revenue sports, which are football and men's basketball.
Mm-hmm.
The demographic of those sports have all, up until recent history, has always been largely African American males.
Yep.
And to criminalize or demonize those young men who come from a lot of times really desperate circumstances.
For sure.
But to criminalize and demonize them just for trying to make a buck, that always was tremendously unfair. And now that NIL is the law of the land, we see how grossly unfair it was during those 60 years where it wasn't allowed. NCAA wouldn't allow and insisted that amateurism was the only way they could operate collegiate athletics. And I as a person who's been a collegiate sports fan my entire life, I in my opinion, it didn't happen soon enough.
Yeah. Honestly, there's no way that I understand things are going to change and that things will look different in the way that the sport is now. But this was a very, very necessary change. Even though they'll say, "Oh, this is going to change the sport is not going to do this, and guys are only going to be in it for the money." Okay, well, whatever. Somebody was making $1 billion. Somebody's making zero. Somebody was training all night. Somebody was sitting at home in their plush sheets in their nice big house because of you scored 10 touchdowns last year. So they should be able to eat off of this money too, as well.
And I'll say this. This is the ironic thing, and I'll say this when you were talking about Cincinnati, and this is what I want to get out to.
Yeah.
Up to this point, I haven't heard of any player in NIL out-earn the head coach of that program.
Nope.
So I would like those coaches to shut the hell up each and every time they start talking about NIL, because they're not giving any of their money back. They're taking every dime they can get each and every time they're up for. I'm sure Cincinnati renegotiated his deal.
He did. He already has a new deal. When he first signed.
First signed.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear any of that bullshit about NIL when at every chance, coaches for the past 20 years I know, each and every time they have an opportunity to elevate their salary, they take full advantage of it, which they should.
Yeah, which they should.
And so at the end of the day, I don't want to hear these coaches complaining about NIL when they're coaching for money and the players of the players of their coaching have every right to play for money.
Every single right. We watch the players be demonized for Man, he transferred schools. He left Alabama and went to Auburn, and we'll watch a coach leave and go to the very school that just beat him, the very rival school. I just watched Texas just hired a head coach from Xavier after Xavier put them out of the playoffs. So there's no loyalty between the coaches or between these organizations, but they'll try to demonize the players the same way they'll do with them making money, even though the coach is making $15 million.
The implication that the players are greedy is always been asinine to me, and the coaches aren't. And again, this is America.
Mm-hmm.
This is not many there are not many cases in America where true free market economy exists.
No.
In professional sports, for the most part in America, when you talk about baseball, basketball, football, they're not based on free market economies. Mm-hmm. One, they have drafts, which that eliminate. If you had a true free market economy, there would not be any drafts.
No, guys
right?
would just pick whoever they want.
Yeah, guys would determine their team. So college is in this case is a bastion of the free market economy, and those people who are in favor of capitalism, there's no better example of the free market than college football, basketball, college athletics right now.
Yeah,
that is the free market.
Yeah,
that's that means the person with the talent gets to choose where they want to go. And there's not any multi-year commitment on any level. They can choose that it's year to year, and there's nothing more American and nothing exhibits the free market any better than the NIL system that exists today. And to be honest with you, and everybody just gets to talking about, oh, we got to get some control over it. I don't want them to touch it. Yeah. I want them to keep it, to let it continue to be the free market economy that it is, and let everybody around the economics of collegiate athletics adjust according to what their budgets are and what they can afford.
The ones that can adjust will adjust. I'm sure Ohio State didn't want to have to pay a bunch of players, and then when they started paying players, they said, we'll pay the most. So the people that can adjust will adjust.
Well, see, that's why I think a lot of people got it mixed up. Is that Texas, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon never had a problem paying. It's just they weren't allowed to pay.
Exactly.
They get $100 million in it. There's more than enough to share. They give $60, $70 million back to their schools, general funds each and every year. I think those systems or those athletic departments understood that the players deserved to be to cut in. They just weren't able to.
Yeah, they weren't allowed to do it.
The problem are the smaller institutions that want to participate big time but want to do it on a paper-thin budget. That day is over.
You're going to be exposed. You'll be exposed.
Play FCS. That's what I can tell you. Play FCS.
Yeah, because in the Power Four, that's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be. The money is going to talk. The big dogs will be the people with the biggest bankroll. And I seen it while I was reading stuff about Texas Tech and their new investor saying that, college sports as of right now has a cap on how much you can spend through the school in NIL money. I think it's around $20 million. But if you have a privately funded group like the group that the investor works for, there is no salary cap. So now we'll watch a Texas Tech be just as big as Alabama, be just as big as Notre Dame, whatever your wallet allows you to be is however big you can be. So I love it. I think it's going to bring on a whole new wave of competitiveness for college sports, because at the same time we're going to see teams like Indiana that just go out there and go get the guys that were in Group of Five or that were at a smaller level school that can actually play. And we'll just put all those guys, and they're going to beat some of these teams with the big-name guys, because you don't know what these guys are going to do until they get out there on the field anyway. So I think it'll bring us a good balance of yin and yang there as far as who can really scout, who can really coach. You'll see that in the Kurt Sonettis. You'll see that in the Fran Browns of Syracuse. You'll see that in some of these smaller guys. And then you'll see who's got the biggest bankroll with the Ohio States, with the Notre Dames, with the Oregon being sponsored by Phil Knight and all those guys.
I mean, in other words, it puts pressure on it. I like it because it puts pressure on coaches.
Yes.
Coaches, again, we know what Saban looked like at Michigan State. We know what Saban, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as he's got to Alabama, started stockpiling talent, he became the greatest coach of all time.
Ever.
What is he at that point? Could Saban compete in this era where he can't stockpile talent, where there's no possibility of him having 3 deep in the secondary, 3 deep NFL at linebacker, 3 deep in defensive line? There's no way you can do that. Not that he's not a great coach. Don't get me wrong. My point is that the advantage he created through recruiting, you can't do anymore.
And I'm very glad that you can't, because it was sad. It wasn't sad to watch, but at some point it's like annoying to watch. I think back to like the 2019 or 2020 Alabama team with Devontae Smith and Jerry Jeudy. And it's like you have every number 1 receiver coming out of high school. You have every number 1 running back coming out of high school. You have every number 1 linebacker coming out of high school. Like, at some point, are you even coaching? Or are you just kind of getting them? How can you? It's very hard to lose. I'm not going to say like you don't have to coach. It's very hard to lose when you have the best D linemen, the best linebackers, the best secondary, the best running back, and the best
receivers. In other words,
receivers.
what you're saying is you have a pro team playing against other collegiate teams.
And it showed. It showed. He had like 7 losses in like 7 years. So it clearly showed that, yes, if you have the best players, it's going to be way easier. I would like to see what a Nick Saban would do in this era. Not saying I don't think he would be great. I don't think he'd have 7 championships is all I'm saying. So I like this a lot better than I like, well, we know we know Alabama's going to win. We know Ohio State's going to win. We know the Golden State Warriors are going to win. We know the whoever. I like it when there's more parity, and we're seeing that in the college level. And I talked about it last week. We're seeing it in the NBA right now. We're getting ready to be a brand new champion. We're seeing it in the NFL right now. As far as the parity, we don't have just a dominant powerhouse. So I love it whenever we get a chance to see that. Folks, just got done talking about a little bit of NIL. Want to switch over and talk some local sports and talk about the local team here that has to spend some NIL, and that is the Baylor Bears. We talked about it last week, Rock, when you weren't able to be here on the show. Sawyer Robertson getting a lot of recognition over the last few weeks for his play last year, and he's starting to be one of those guys that college sports are starting to recognize as one of the best quarterbacks. I think CBS put out a list of the top 10 quarterbacks coming in the next year. Sawyer Robertson was in that top 10. He was a guy that he's got the highest QBR coming in next year for any returning quarterback in Power 5, 82.9 QBR. Looking at the way that he finished off his season, and I'm a guy that's saying, hey, I want to go ahead and put this out here now. I want to put the pressure on the Baylor because I want to see this Baylor team be successful. I looked at Baylor's schedule and who they have for next year. They have a harder pre-conference than I've seen Baylor have in quite some time. But looking at their conference schedule, there's no big bad wolf over here in the Big 12, especially not that's going to be on their that's not going to be on their schedule. I expect Baylor to go out here and win games. If we got a quarterback that we're saying is a top 10 quarterback in the nation, we got one of the best running backs in the Big 12 returning. I believe with Franklin with Washington that's coming back, that's coming out of Franklin High School. We've got a guy that's getting recognized at receiver for one of the top receivers coming back, and Josh Cameron, what he was able to do last year. I want to see this Baylor team be successful. I don't want to have it be, well, it was really good. We ended off on that 5-game winning streak last year, and that was real nice, and we ended up getting the 8 wins, and we got 5th in the Big 12. With the Big 12 being wide open right now, I'm expecting this Baylor team to come in to compete. What do you think about the recognition that Sawyer Robertson's been getting, I guess, over the last few months as far as looking forward to next college football season? And then what do we expect this Baylor team to be able to do coming into next season?
Well, this is what I see with Sawyer Robertson. I think he's a decent passer. Mm-hmm. He's a decent passer. And he benefited from having what I would consider a very effective running game that the Baylor had. I think, and this is just how I feel about it, as a player, I like a quarterback who provides more of a threat in the run game. Mm-hmm. I also think that Sawyer Robertson benefited from Baylor being in some situations where they had to throw, and he had some empty calories, some DAC calories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
definitely.
I think he's a young quarterback that has a lot of promise. he'll get an opportunity to see what he truly can do. But Baylor's fate will not be determined by Sawyer Robertson. Their fate is going to be determined by how well his offensive line and defensive line plays, how well the defense plays. Like, in my opinion, Baylor's defense was horrible last year. I know the coach gets a lot of credit for
Dave Aranda
being, but you gave up, last year, you gave up quite a bit,
especially in those first
you gave
6
up,
weeks.
You gave up,
season.
Yeah, you gave up 38 to Colorado, 34 to BYU, 43 to Iowa State. You gave 35 up to Texas Tech. You gave 28 up to Ohio State. You gave 34 up to TCU, 35 to West Virginia, and then Houston and Kansas. You gave up 10 and 17, and then you gave up 44 to what really was a shell of a LSU team.
All backups, and they lit them up.
Yeah, and so again, let's see. I think the proof is in the pudding. What he's a young quarterback. You got to understand, he's not a senior. He wasn't a senior or anything like that. I think he was a redshirt sophomore last year or something.
Oh, he was redshirt junior last year, so he's coming back for his senior year because
he's coming back for his senior year. So this is the year he should put on, and we should see what he. But again, I think they have to be as good in the running game. They should be. I think they should be solid up front.
Yeah.
I hadn't looked at their schedule.
It's up if you go on there and look. They got Auburn week 1. They got the toughest pre-conference I've seen them have in a long time. Auburn is coming. They got Auburn week 1, a game that I definitely am going to try to be at. Week 2, they go up I-35 and they go to play SMU in week 2.
That's not going to be easy.
They have a very tough, one of the tougher pre-conference schedules I've seen them have in a long time. Even last year they had, Tarleton State and Air Force in their first wins, and I knew that those wins didn't count as much. And then remember when we played real competition in Utah and BYU and all those, we lost all those games before Baylor started to get back on track towards the end of the season. So they've got a really, really tough pre-conference. I think Auburn at home is a very winnable game. It is going to be a extremely tough game, though, especially when you look at how Auburn has gotten the transfer portal. Another one of those schools that their boosters and their people in their community have said, hey, we don't want to continue to keep being sorry every single year. We're going to put our money where our mouth is. They've gone out and got some really top-end transfer portal guys and recruits as well. So they're going to be no slouch coming in week 1. And then going up to SMU is one of my favorite teams coming into next year, especially being led by Kevin Jennings at quarterback. That's no slouch of a pre-conference just to start that. Now, the conference schedule isn't as tough to me. There's no scary teams, in my opinion. There's nobody I'm looking at them playing and say, wow, I don't know how Baylor's going to be able to come out. And I believe I had their schedule right here.
I'm looking at it now.
Okay, yeah.
They very well could be 0-2. They're the underdog against
Auburn and
Auburn,
SMU,
and they'll probably be the underdog against
For
SMU as well. They should beat Samford, and then they'll open up with Arizona State. They'll be underdog there for sure.
Yeah,
against
I believe
Arizona State.
They'll be an underdog.
And then TCU. I think their season starts when they play TCU because they have TCU, Cincinnati, UCF, Utah, Arizona. They could have a rough start again, but then finish out the season pretty good. Not sure what Oklahoma State has at this point.
I'm not sure at them at all.
But again, that's one of the things about being in the Big 12 now. They'll show up in every game and have a chance to win.
Every game.
Whereas the previous version of the Big 12, if they were an average team, they weren't.
You're losing to Texas, you're losing to Oklahoma.
Yeah. and even in some years, you wouldn't have had a chance against TCU.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
But now, it's fair. And it looks like they don't play Colorado.
They're not playing Colorado, not playing Tech.
Oh, and they're not playing Tech. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. It's a very winnable schedule if you're looking at it for Baylor. So I'm like, I don't want to go into the season with the expectation of, well, I just hope we get 5th place again. At some point, they've got to be able to go out and close a deal, especially if you're saying we have the best returning quarterback in the Big 12. Then we need to be thinking, okay, can we go out here and win in the Big 12? And I don't see how they wouldn't have. I mean, a lot of guys like Sam Levitt. I want to see what Sam Levitt looks like without Cam Scatterboo, because every game I watched from Arizona State, it was the Cam Scatterboo showcase, and Sam Levitt just happened to be there. I think Iowa State is going to return a really good team. They've got a lot of their guys coming back outside of the 2 receivers, but Colorado is to be left determined. Kansas State is left to be determined. I don't expect anything out of Oklahoma State. A lot of people had them to win.
Yeah, it don't look like they play Kansas State either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, they play Kansas State. They play Kansas State, and on the 4th they play them at home. Matter of fact, that's another game I need to try to be at. But they play them at home. But
in October.
Yeah, in October they play those guys. And then I'm looking at they don't play in Iowa State.
They don't play Kansas.
Yeah, they don't play Kansas.
Okay.
But they don't play Iowa State is another team I think is going to be right there at the very top of the division. I think Tech will be right there at the top. They don't play Tech. So I'm like, this is a very winnable. Now, the pre-conference could throw you off some, but it's a very winnable schedule for Baylor. So
well, I look at, when I look at the teams that I think will be better, I think Houston's going to be better. I believe in that coach.
They spent money, yeah.
I believe that coach they have. I think he has an eye for talent, and he knows how to develop players.
Yeah, rebuilt that Tulane program and a couple other schools as well.
So I think they're going to be okay. Again, but they'll show up every Saturday with a chance to win on every one of these games.
Uh-huh.
There's no game, even with them being even with Auburn being favored. Auburn is only favored by 2 points, and considering how things unfold, because you still have you have fall camp to get through.
Mm.
There are all kind of things could happen.
Yeah.
Between now and what is it?
I think that
August the 29th.
Yeah, the end of August on Friday.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it looks like they're gonna open up college football just about.
Yeah,
on Friday night. So, but like I say, I think it's a good look for Baylor. I think having them here, under those Friday night lights, I think it's gonna be the first game. So, I'm sure it's gonna be a sellout.
Yeah.
Optimism will be in the air.
Yes.
Everybody has a chance to win it all on the first weekend of the year.
Everybody's
0-0. And you have a formidable, a big name opponent at least. I think it'll be awesome.
That'll be
It's going to be awesome. And again, I always root for the Bears in most situations because they're the home team. But again, before we anoint Sawyer Robertson as a Heisman Trophy candidate or the best quarterback in the Big 12, let's see some things unfold first. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Baylor has.
Yeah,
moving forward.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that too. Baylor is going to be one of those teams that I'm going to keep my eye on. Obviously, they're the home team, but they're one of those teams, like I said, should be right there in the Big 12. Best thing I love about what Baylor has done, their football program, recently is just trying to keep local talent at home. They get the big time commitment from London Smith out of university. They get the big time commitment from Jamarian Vincent out of Conley, going to Baylor as well, keeping a lot of that local talent at home. When I think about the heyday era of Baylor, what I would consider from like around 2009, about 2015, all those local guys stayed home. Started with Ahmad and Jared Salubi when he came out of Waco High, and then Billings when he came out of Waco High. They ended up getting Orion when he came out of Midway. They kept a lot of those local guys home. If they can get back to that, I think that'll be big for this Baylor program going forward. Folks, want to jump to a couple quick takes here as we move throughout the show here today. There's been a lot of topics going on around the sports. One of them, WNBA has just started here recently. Caitlin Clark has got an injury. I believe she had a quad strain and is going to be out for a couple of weeks, a minimum of 2 weeks. So the team will take a big hit in that. Caitlin Clark, obviously, somebody that's been a controversial figure to most. We saw her and Angel Reese kind of getting into it, whatever, last week. And on the show, I said last week, hey, can we stop trying to force – I feel like the rivalry has always been forced with this Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark thing. Can we just let both of them be in the WNBA at this point and stop trying to – they opened up the season against each other even though the Fever are a team that are competing for the playoffs, and the Chicago Sky are going to be a top 3 pick again. They're not going to be a good team again. So let's just stop. They don't even play the same position. Let's just stop with trying to force that rivalry. But what do you think about Caitlin Clark, even though she got off to a hot start this first couple of games, now getting injured and going to miss a couple of weeks here?
I think Indiana ended up playing, some of the better teams in the league.
They did.
I think they'll be fine. Mm-hmm. They'll be fine. They split with the Dream, and then they beat the Chicago, who looks like they're not going to be a very good team at all.
No.
And so my point is saying that I think they're going to. I think Caitlin Clark is an integral part of Indiana. But if this had been last year, I would say the team had no chance.
Yeah.
This year, they fortified their roster.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be okay. Matter of fact, I picked her backup on my fantasy team.
Yeah.
And so I think they'll be okay. They won't be as dynamic. They won't be as they won't score as many points.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest with you, I think they'll be better defensively. And I think they have, if I look at their schedule, I think they have a more favorable schedule than they had opening up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do. They do. They have a much more favorable schedule going forward than they did. I think they got a Connecticut Sun who they'll be taking on, and the Sun are a team that haven't got a win yet. So they'll have a chance to be able to rebound. She'll be out for a couple of weeks, and it'll hurt them. But I'm like you. I think with the talent that they put around her and the Natasha Howards and the Kelsey Mitchells and the Leah Boston still blossoming into a really good player as well, I think they'll be able to withstand for the couple of weeks that she's out. I think last year a lot of the argument was, man, they keep talking about her and she's not even one of the best players in the WNBA. They just bringing her up because they just want to make her. I think that argument is already over with. I think Caitlin Clark is right now one of the best players in the WNBA. Is she the best player? No. But is she one of the best players in the WNBA already right now? I absolutely think so. And her play has proved it.
She'll miss 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
That should bring her back against the Dream. And so with that being the case, I think she'll be okay. And that'll be right in time for the WNBA Commissioner's Cup. And so she'll be back on that Tuesday. Shout out to Rashad and Riel, my twins that'll be on their birthday, June 10th.
Okay.
And they're turning 30 this year. Man, I'm old.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be on their birthday. So they should be coming. She should be coming back on that day. So and again, if they go 500 during that time,
then
that'll be fine.
Yeah. If they can find a way to just win a couple of those games and hold the fort down.
Yeah, if they could find a way to maybe possibly beat the Mystics, and I fully think they'll beat the Sky, and then their next 2 games are the Mystics and then the Sun. They actually could go undefeated during that time. The Liberty is the one game that I see that they
were going to lose that regardless, I think.
Trouble with, but they'll have Caitlin back by then.
Yeah. The Liberties, of course, they're the champs, so I think they'll struggle with those guys. But they got a great chance to be able to survive without her, so I don't think it'll be too much of a big deal. I just hope she comes back healthy because she was already off to a really good run just to start this season off. So I'll definitely be tuning in to more of that. Shout out Asia Wilson, man, and the signature shoe that she just released has sold out every time, even on the re-releases that they've put back out. Finally getting that recognition. She's been the best player in the WNBA for a few years now and has a chance, in my opinion, to go down as one of the best WNBA players of all time. So definitely.
I wonder whose shoe did she get. She probably got Kyrie's shoe.
Whose spot she filled in for at Nike? Yeah, probably. They got Kyrie off the shelf, and he was the number 1 selling shoe, and then John Morant was right behind him, but he want to keep throwing grenades into the crowd, so that probably is over with. So I think they're having the full-fledged push now from Nike as far as pushing her shoes out there now as one of the top selling signature shoes that Nike has. So definitely shout out to her for being able to do that. Looking at some more quick takes here as we go throughout here before we get off the show here today. USC booster threatens to take USC out of his will if the rivalry between USC and Notre Dame does not continue. Many USC boosters are reaching out to the board of trustees about the future rivalry, and we just talked about all this NIL stuff. This is not what you're going to see. These boosters who have always had a say, for those of you that thought college sports was just this nice, pretty, really thing that no one cheats or no one does anything or nobody has influence outside of the coaches and the players. Well, that's not true, and it's going to just show even more now. USC booster said he's going to take them out of his will if they don't. Now, if somebody's even saying that, his will got to have a pretty big puck. He's got to have a pretty good check to go along with that will written there. First of all, we're talking about USC. It's not like somebody said this about Tarleton State or something. This is USC, which is one of the biggest programs in the nation, and he's in his will. Your will is supposed to be for your kids and all this kind of stuff. He's got USC in his will some kind of way, and he said, if y'all don't get this rivalry going back with Notre Dame, I'm taking y'all out of my will. My guess is the rivalry will continue with Notre Dame, if I had to guess.
Well, it has to make sense, though. So what happens with that rivalry, and let me kind of run it down, they usually play it in the second half of the season, right? Considering who Notre Dame is and what they will be moving forward, if you are a team that's going to vie for a national championship at some point, do you want that game right before you possibly play USC, right before you possibly play Oregon, right before you possibly play Ohio State? Do you want that game right before then against that team? I just think they need to schedule the game in the beginning of the year. I think it works best for both teams. Now, Notre Dame doesn't care because, for the simple fact, they just need a ball game. They're not in a conference, so they just need a ball game. But I think it works better if the game happens early in the year for USC, and I think they'll figure it out. I don't think it's a difficult fix, but it may not be within the next couple seasons that they can make the adjustment, but I think it'll make adjustment within 3 years. They'll figure it out, because I think that would be a great game to open up with every year.
Exactly.
USC and Notre Dame. I think that would be a great game to open up.
Yeah, I think in those games at the beginning, especially if you're a USC, they almost don't count. If you lose Notre Dame in week 2 and you win your next 9 games, there's going to be minimal talk about your loss to Notre Dame in week 2, as opposed to if you're on the fringe team, you're ranked number 19, number 21, somewhere in there, and you drop off and you lose to Notre Dame, that could kick you out of the top 25. That could kick you out of your chances of having college football playoffs.
I look at the college football playoffs. None of that stuff, nothing matters at this point other than what you do in your conference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what truly matters. Now, again, if you're down to the point to where an out-of-conference game is dictating whether you make the playoffs or not, which in the conference they play in, you could be a fourth-place team and get in the playoffs. It's marginal whether you deserve to be in anyway. So that game is not what kept you out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So when the top 4 teams from the Big Ten are getting in, at the end of the day, if USC doesn't fall in the top 4 teams that are clearly in the top 4 teams, then they probably don't deserve to be in.
Yeah. No, I agree. If you're not a top 4 team in the Big Ten, because I'm not a guy that thinks the Big Ten is that scary, in my opinion, and it really kind of got proved as they went throughout the college football playoffs. Okay, we got Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, but there's 16 other teams in the Big Ten. If you can't get 4th place, you can't be the 4th place team. You don't need to be in the playoffs anyway. And USC is probably not going to be that 4th place team. Always a team that I always thought, I never understood how USC is not good. You get to live in downtown LA pretty much most of the time, and now they're paying guys to come and stay in down. I don't know how USC is not always good at football, but I don't expect them to.
I think they've always been restricted by the crop of athletes that come out of Southern California. Like that's what has made them historically a viable team, and I don't care what area you look in. There's always been some lull with the talents coming out of Southern California, especially when you talk about in the trenches. That's not a consistent.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not a consistent thing. They're always going to have wide receivers. They're always going to have
running backs.
And then there are always going to be some good QBs. But that in the trenches, defensive offense, that's not something that, to be perfectly honest with you, that Southern California is known for.
Yeah, and that's what always gets them. That's what gets all the California schools, in my opinion, even schools like Oregon, because you got to almost consider them a California school. They get majority of the California talent now since they're the powerhouse over there. It's the trenches. That's what always is the difference, and that's what's always going to make that's what's always going to make the Texas and the Georgias and the Alabamas always going to have a chance. Even up north, you think about the Michigans and the Penn States, that O-line and that defensive line is always going to be bigger, always going to have a better chance to be able to go out and be able to compete. So USC, I still don't see them being competitive. Hopefully they honor Mr. Oglesby wishes, whoever the old guy is that said he's going to take them out, they will. If they don't revive this USC-Notre Dame rivalry, hopefully if they want to stay in that wheel, they stay in line with some of those wishes. Folks, like I said, it is NBA season right now. We are at the very end of this season with the NBA. We're in the conference finals. Both East and West are both sitting at 2-1 right now. The Indiana Pacers dropped the game last night to the New York Knicks. But one piece of good news that they did get is that Mr. Halliburton, Tyrese Halliburton's father, John Halliburton, will be allowed to attend Pacers games in a suite. He won't be on the floor anymore. So he's not going to be running up on Giannis anymore or anybody like that. But he is now allowed to come back to the games. Do you think that John Halliburton has served his time, I guess, now going forward with being banned for, I think he had to miss all of the last series in Cleveland, and now getting to come back as Indiana gets a chance to go back home now, gets a chance to come back in the fold and see his son play?
Man, I always thought it was a complete overreaction to suspend the dad. He didn't hit nobody. He didn't throw nothing at nobody. He was just talking noise, man. And when did talking noise become, I mean, literally Shannon Sharp did more than his dad did. I thought they were picking on his dad just because.
Well, it wasn't his first time reportedly. He's done got into it with the players.
But he's talking noise though. He's talking noise.
Yeah.
He's not.
Yeah.
He's not.
He ain't slapped nobody.
No, he ain't hit nobody. He ain't threatening anybody. Nah. He's talking noise, and apparently he's pretty good at it.
Yeah. If all the teams have reported something on him and all this, he must have said something that got under y'all skin.
He's pretty good at it.
No, I agree.
And something about him gives me the same vibes as Pat Mahomes Sr. You know what I mean?
Same line of work. Pat Mahomes Sr. and John Halliburton. Same line of work.
They kind of remind me.
They go hand in hand. They don't share the cigar a couple times, probably.
And you have to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
To truly understand that they are two.
One and the same. One and the same type of guy. Mahomes and Halliburton. Y'all can figure out what do they have in common there. But, I think John Halliburton getting released. They had shirts that said "Free Pops" at the last Pacers game. So now he's free, gets a chance to come back. He can talk as much noise as he wants. We've seen him during the hiatus when his son hit one of those game winners, was at a bar. Looked like he was doing the same thing he was doing when he was at the games, politicking, drinking, doing a little bit of having fun, talking noise about his son. So he'll get a chance to do it again.
Yeah, he get a little lubrication in it.
Yeah, you get that little liquid courage. You gonna walk up to Giannis. He probably said, "Man, if you walk over here, I'm gonna say something to this dude." And after a couple of those cocktails that are on Tyrese's tab, I'm sure that he said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go up and say something to Giannis." But yeah, I think it's definitely time for him to come back into it, man. He got to miss the last series. His son is still out here hitting game winners, and I think probably on their way to the NBA Finals at this point. So it's the time for him to get off that punishment, get off the ban, and let Mr. Halliburton back in the building. That is what he's going to do. Last night, the Pacers were not able to come out victorious in that game against the New York Knicks, as the Knicks pulled the Pacers on the Pacers and had a 20-point comeback in the fourth quarter yesterday for the New York Knicks to be able to come out with the 106-100 victory in that game. This was a game that Indiana was in full control of from start to finish. It looked like, man, these dudes are going to get swept. I was like, no way I thought the Knicks were going to come into this series. I had the Knicks winning the series before the series started. And they come into this series, look like they're about to get swept in the fourth quarter. Karl Anthony Towns, to the liking of my parlay as well, scored 20 points in that fourth quarter and really reignited his team. and showed that no one on the Pacers can guard Karl Towns. I don't know how we forgot that in Game 2. Game 1, he had 30-plus, and so did Jalen Brunson, but they weren't able to come out victorious. Yesterday, he was reminded that, man, these dudes cannot guard me. He had 24 points and 15 rebounds. Jalen Brunson had 23 points, hit the go-ahead bucket floater as he had to check back in the game. Didn't play majority of that fourth quarter because he was in foul trouble in that game, but able to come back in and still make a difference as the Knicks steal Game 3 at Indiana, too, was a big thing. Like I said, I thought this was a sweep after watching that game yesterday, but now with the Knicks coming back and getting just that one game, if Tibbs can make some adjustments, they can still get back into the series.
I kind of knew it wasn't a sweep. The NBA sent the sweep stopper in.
Push the button. The Buffalo Wild Wings.
No, they got a guy, and I'm not going to say anything, too, but Google Scott Foster.
Oh, Scott Foster ref yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We know exactly what happened there. Hey, we need New York to get back to New York. We need at least one more game in New York. Scott, do what we put you in the NBA to do. Act like Chris Paul is on the other team.
And once he was announced as the Game 3 official, the odds adjusted.
Oh yeah, if I would have knew that, I'm betting the house on New York after that. Come on, man, this is a long time. You might as well have had Tim Donaghy going out there and reffing the game if Scott Foster was going to do it.
He seems to always get these kind of games.
Always. My entire life, at least as long as I've been paying attention to know who NBA refs are. If it's a big game on the line, Game 6 versus the Golden State Warriors,
they need a game
2018. 7. And we can close it out right here at home. They ain't even got to go back to Golden State. And Scott Foster refs the game. Chris Paul tears his hamstring. We miss 100 threes in a row, and they shoot 50 free throws. So that's how it goes. That's how it goes. Scott Foster's on there. So I definitely get that. He is for sure the sweep stopper being sent in from the big dogs up there. Adam Silver getting sit down there. But do you think the Knicks have now kept this series alive?
I just don't think the Knicks are good enough.
Yeah.
Again, I think this particular game showed you that Indiana was the better team. However, there are some things that happened or didn't happen, however you look at the game, that didn't benefit Indiana. Like I say, you can say what you want to or whatever, but when you look at the play and the physicality and what was called and what wasn't, I don't even know what the stats are for the game, but let's just humor me here. I want to see
the free throws.
Yeah, just look at the free throws.
Yesterday, the Knicks 27 from 30 from the free throw line, and the Pacers 27 for 33 from the free throw line.
That ain't too bad. That
ain't bad at all.
That was pretty.
And both of the Knicks stars are about to foul out. Brunson had 5 fouls. He didn't even hardly play. Towns just kind of had to play at the end because they were out of players. But he had 5 fouls in that whole fourth quarter, and he just had to go out there and play through it. Unfortunately, the Pacers did not attack him. I don't know why that was. The inconsistency of some of the guys on the Pacers, the only thing that's alarming for me, I love Halliburton and what he brings to the table and all that. But sometimes if you're that guy, we just need you to go ahead and be that guy. And that's some of the things that I don't think Tyrese – that's the difference between Halliburton and Brunson, in my opinion. Brunson knows as soon as it's start time, hey, I'm going to get the ball, I'm going to take the shots. Halliburton, there's times where, yeah, we see him hit the game winners, but I'm looking at the whole fourth quarter. We need you to take the shots. We're down. We're up by 20, and you see the lead dwindling and going away. I need you to go and get a bucket. Same with Pascal Siakam. Even though he had that 35 in game 2 and looked like the Siakam of old.
This game can be summed up by what the Pacers shot at 3-point. They were 5 for 25.
Yes.
That won't happen again. And they probably were shooting threes when they should have been going to the bucket late in the game.
The whole team is in foul trouble.
So yeah.
And the biggest thing is this: the adjustment that I'm looking to see. Will Tibbs, they finally found something that worked yesterday. They played Mitchell Robinson more. That worked. They started Mitchell Robinson, matter of fact. But he actually played the bench. And whoop-de-doo, your players aren't as tired, and they come back and win a game because you're not playing only 6 guys. You go 9 deep this time, and and everybody that came off the bench played good. McBride played good. DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet were, perfect for exactly what they needed in that game. Will Tibbs say, maybe I should be like a regular NBA coach and play the bench? or will he go back to regular old Tibbs and play 6 guys and just let those guys die out there on the court? That's the adjustments I'm looking to see.
I mean, you got to understand. I think
4.
that situation was driven by foul trouble.
That's why it happened. It didn't happen because out the kindness of his heart, he wanted to change philosophy. He was forced to play guys off his bench, and it worked. Yeah. I haven't seen Landry Shaman or DeLon Wright, who are 2 guys that could contribute on the team. They haven't played all postseason outside of garbage time minutes. You put them in, and all of a sudden they start to contribute.
But again, I think going back to what I say, I think those guys play because Indiana shot so poorly from the 3. And here's my point. If Indiana scores the 115, 120 that they usually score, right, can those guys keep up? And that's the struggle that Tibbs is going to have.
Yeah.
If he goes to his bench, I say this: it's easier to play your bench when you know exactly what you're going to get from your bench.
Mm-hmm.
Harder for a guy like Tibbs to play his bench because if the game starts getting away from him, he may. He doesn't know if they have the ability to close the distance, and he does, certainly in a game 4, you don't want the game to get away from you.
Yeah,
because essentially, if you lose that game, the series
is over.
Is over. So again, I just think we'll see. I think Tibbs may. I think some guys probably earn some playing time.
Yeah, for sure.
An opportunity, but I still suspect Tibbs will be rather stingy with the playing time. If the game is tight.
And when he goes away from his bench, the problem with the Knicks has always been they live and die with their star power. When Towns and Brunson, who we know can go and get 30, which they've been doing on the Pacers all season, not just in this series, when they go and get those 30, they have a higher chance of winning. But last night, when they're struggling, Towns was struggling shooting. He had 4 points going into the fourth quarter. Now, he scored 20 in the fourth, and that kind of saved the stats. Brunson, the same thing. He was struggling the entire game as well, even when they weren't in foul trouble. That's why they were getting blown out, because all their scoring comes from 2 guys primarily. With them playing their bench, they get those guys more rest. They get those guys an opportunity. Brunson got to sit the whole fourth quarter almost, and as soon as he got in the game, he came in and made all the shots, probably because he was rested. He hadn't had that much rest since the offseason started. So I think that hopefully that's what Tibbs are going to do. Looking at Game 4 in Indiana, you see Indiana going and getting this one. They had a huge lead in Game 3 playing at home. The crowd was electric. Do you see them coming out with that same energy in Game 4?
Yeah, I would take both home teams in this game, and I would take in tonight's game, I'd take the home team as well.
Okay. Yeah, I see it the same way. I think the Pacers are going to go out there and get a win to close that out. Will New York be able to keep it alive? That's left to be determined. They're going to have to come out, and I don't know how you don't utilize that home crowd energy that they had at New York, because that crowd is electric out there. But they've got to be able to find a way to get a win at home. They're not out of this just yet, but it's going to have to start with winning it, taking care of home in that Game 5 when they get a chance to go back home. So they'll play again tomorrow is what they'll play in Indiana for Game 4. That game will be on TNT as well. Can't wait to be able to watch that game. Tonight, the Thunder versus the Timberwolves in a game that I thought was – in the series that I thought was pretty much over with. I said after the way that it wasn't just Oklahoma going up 2-0 because they're the home team. So even if they win those first 2 games, the series is still alive. It's the way that they were beating down the Minnesota Timberwolves that made me say, not only is Oklahoma City going to win, and I still think Oklahoma City is going to win, I thought they had a chance of it being a sweep with the way that they were getting beat down by the Thunder in those games. But Minnesota comes out in Game 3 and makes really a statement game, not only showing that, hey, we can win at home, but we can compete with this team if our guys are playing at the way that they're supposed to. They win on Saturday 143-101, kind of a crazy stat line to see the number 1 defensive team in the league give up 143 points in a conference final. That's just ridiculous. I don't care if you're getting blown out of garbage time. You should never give up 143 points in a playoff game, but that's what just happened with those guys. Anthony Edwards came out on a mission. That's what it looked like to me. Anthony Edwards from jump ball was aggressive on both sides of the ball. He wasn't even letting guys almost cross half court before he's going after the ball, trying to get a steal. Multiple breakaway dunks. He goes 6 for 8 from behind the three-point line, 12 for 17 total in that game. Julius Randle picked back up his play once again. He had 24 points in that game. But they got a lot of contributions from a little bit of everybody. Everybody played better in that game 3, which we know role players play better at home. With the way that Minnesota has won, with now this series being all blowouts, I feel like we know less, or at least myself, I know less about what's going to happen in this series than when it started, because every single game has been a blowout. We haven't seen anybody have to make a decision in crunch time, a clutch decision, a clutch shot had to be made. None of that has had to happen because every single game has been blowouts for the home team so far. You already said you think the home team, again, is winning tonight, and that's the Minnesota Timberwolves. Do you think that gives the Timberwolves a chance to be able to win in this series, or is this still a series that Oklahoma City can probably dominate?
Again, like I said, I think Oklahoma City has the deeper team. Now, again, I think Minnesota has a more experienced team.
Yeah.
So here's what happened, I think, Saturday. Oklahoma came home to celebrate. Minnesota got on the road with the understanding that if they don't compete, they're going to get swept.
It's over with, yeah.
And when one team is celebrating and the other one is competing, that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like, what you saw on Saturday. Now, tonight, which I think tonight is probably going to be the most competitive game of the series. No doubt it'll be the most competitive game. But what you have in a competitive game is always you have this. The deeper bench coupled with the road also being the home team. You're going to have those guys, those bench guys playing with high energy. They already have the deeper bench, in my opinion. And they're going to, and it's just going to be too much for Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards to overcome. Again, I think Minnesota has a decent bench, but they don't have what.
No,
they don't have
what the Thunder have. No, they can go 10, 11 deep.
And they have two-way players across, down their roster.
Yeah.
Down their roster. So, again, I think, you look at this last night. You look, Saturday, Anthony Edwards had 30, Julius Randle had 24. You look at SGA, he only had 14.
Yeah.
He can give you 30. That's 20 points right there. In a bad game, they score 101. If he gives you his customary 30, they're already up to 120. And then you got Jalen Williams. He scored 13. He can easily give you another 10. It just was an ugly game all the way around for the Timberwolves, and even for the Thunder, and even their guys who came off the bench didn't give you much either, and that was surprising. So I just think it was an overall bad game. There was a barrage of threes by the Timberwolves. If the Timberwolves shoot like that again, then I don't think many teams have a chance. But you know how shooting is.
Yeah. Your role players are going to play better at home. Like you said, I think that was the biggest point of it is OKC is coming back celebrating. We're up 2-0. Shea just got the MVP trophy in front of all of us. Let's celebrate for a little bit. Okay, if we only got one day in between games, let's get on this flight to Minnesota and go out there. And Minnesota is
playing for their lives.
They're looking death in the face right now. They're saying we're going to get swept. And Anthony Edwards, if your best player comes down and set the tone the way he was, it's going to be tough to beat him. And I think these last few games are going to come down to, even though both teams have a good bench or both teams have decent coaches and all this, it's going to come down to Shea versus Anthony Edwards. Who wants this more? Anthony Edwards, they're already prematurely, in my opinion, knighting you as you're going to be the next face of the NBA. We're going to make you that next guy. Shea, who currently is winning the MVP trophy right now this year, it's that balance of power, and then y'all both are guards. You're looking right at each other. You're near the same age. Shea is a little bit older than Anthony Edwards, but who is going to want him more in that respect? So I think that's what this game is going to come down to tonight. I'm like you, Rocky. I got Minnesota winning tonight. I think they come back out with that same energy. Even though I think this is going to be a much closer game, I think we get a much, much better SGA in this game than we did in the last game. So that's going to make for a better matchup. That game coming on 7:30 tonight over on ESPN. Folks, want to thank everybody for tuning in with us here on this Memorial Day for Centex Primetime here today. We're back here all week long. We'll be able to talk some more about these games. We'll break down tomorrow some more of this Minnesota versus Oklahoma City series. We'll see if it's going to be 3-1 Thunder or if this thing is going to be tied up at 2-2. So I can't wait to be able to watch that game tonight. I'll be tuning into some more of this World Series for college softball. College Baseball World Series has now got their seeding. So a lot of good things going on in the sports world, and that's going to give us plenty to talk about here on Centex Primetime. So once again, want to thank you guys for tuning in with us today. As always, hit that subscribe button if you're watching with us on YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, you can like this page. Also like and share this stream as well. And also you can follow me, bottom ticket there, at Jalen Gillis over on Instagram. Rocky, give them your Instagram handle on there and where they can find you at.
You can always catch me at on YouTube. Just search Rocky Miller or HBCU Coach's Corner. Also, you can hit me on Instagram at Rocky Miller 1 and also at Twitter at Rocky Miller.
You guys doing Coach's Corner this week?
Yeah.
Tell a little bit about what you guys got lined up.
We got the head coach of the UFL DC Defenders gonna be on with us tonight. Tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Which is Shannon Harris. He's the interim coach of the the DC Defenders, and he's an HBCU guy, so we're gonna have him on doing an interview. Unfortunately, they lost last night, but they've already secured their berth in the UFL playoffs, so they'll be vying for a championship moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out. I've been tuning in a little bit at UFL myself. Shout out to one of my good friends, Jay Will, playing for the San Antonio team out there in San Antonio. Definitely gonna try to get you back on the show as well. But, folks, like I said, out of time here today. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Want to thank Rock for jumping on the show with us today. We will see you guys tomorrow here on Centex Primetime. Everybody have a great evening.